When Russia and Ukraine needed a mediator, they called Turkey. When NATO wanted a consensus, they negotiated with Turkey. When Middle East wanted a bridge, Turkey was in the room. And this raises a very wonderful question. How did Turkey, once seen as a regional power, suddenly became one of the most important geopolitical powers of the world? And more importantly, is President Recep Tayyip Erdogan deliberately positioning Turkey as the ultimate geopolitical mediator? Let's understand Turkey and its geopolitics in this episode of This Side. Now, Turkey sits at a location that no other country can replicate. It connects Europe, Asia, NATO, Russia. It also connects Black Sea, Mediterranean along with West and the Islamic world. This geography gives Turkey something very important in geopolitics: access without allegiance. Unlike most NATO members, Turkey talks to almost everyone. It talks with US, Russia, it also talks with Ukraine and Putin. It connects Israel and Iran. It also connects Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Erdogan understood something very early on. Power generally does not come from military strength, it comes from becoming indispensable. And Turkey did that. Turkey's biggest breakthrough came during the Russia Ukraine war. In 2022, when global food prices surged and millions faced shortages, Turkey brokered the Black Sea grain deal. It allowed Ukrainian grain to pass through Black Sea ports safely, feeding Africa, Middle East, and parts of Asia. Now, it wasn't just symbolic diplomacy, it directly impacted global food prices, political stability in developing nations, and Turkey's credibility as a serious power broker. For the first time, the world saw Turkey not as a problem inside NATO, but as a solution outside it. Erdogan follows a strategy that very few leaders can pull off: strategic ambiguity. Turkey supplies drones to Ukraine but refuses to sanction Russia. It hosts NATO's radar system but also buys Russian S 400 missiles. It frustrates the West, but this also makes Turkey indispensable because when communication between two rivals break, Turkey becomes the last open channel of communication. And in geopolitics, this is a massive leverage. For years, Turkey was isolated in the Middle East. But recently, Erdogan reversed course. Turkey started repairing relations with Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt. Why? Because mediation requires trust from multiple camps. And by rebuilding these ties, Turkey is trying to position itself as a Sunni power, a NATO member, a voice for the Muslim world, and a negotiator acceptable to the West. Very few countries can play all these roles simultaneously. Turkey delayed Sweden's NATO membership, not to block NATO, but to extract leverage. Erdogan forced negotiations on security concerns, Kurdish militant groups, and defense cooperation. The message from him was very clear: Turkey is not a junior NATO partner anymore. It is a power whose approval must be earned. This annoyed allies, but it also proved Turkey's strategic importance. The world today is deeply fragmented. US China rivalries, Russia versus the West, Middle East instability, Global South asserting itself. And in such a world, neutral mediators are rare. Turkey fills that vacuum, not because it is neutral, but because it is independent in its geopolitical actions. And that independence gives Erdogan a seat in almost every negotiating table in the world. But this strategy isn't without risks. Balancing everyone can alienate everyone. Economic pressures at home are real, and Turkey's credibility depends on it delivering results, not just optics. Yet, one thing is clear: Erdogan isn't trying to make Turkey a superpower, he is trying to make it indispensable. And in modern geopolitics, that might be the greatest power play of all. So, guys, that's it for today. I hope you liked the video. If you enjoy watching our content, please do subscribe to the channel because we are trying to break down geopolitics and economics in a way that makes sense for all of us. See you in the next one soon. Till then, stay happy, stay diplomatic. This is Dev this side signing off. Peace.